Hey everybody, Kaysha here, and today I am here with my friend
Jennifer Guskin,
and we need your help. We are right now working on advocacy for combating human trafficking, and here's why. So we'll give you a little bit of background of our story and why we're doing what we're doing.
I was adopted as an infant by a couple who sold me throughout my childhood. I have been to Epstein Island and on multiple Lolita Express types of flights as a child. After I went public, Child Protective Services opened a substance-exposed newborn case, even though all tests came back negative, and they told me that if I wouldn't stop posting on social media, I would never see my daughter again. I started to connect how I was adopted as an infant and then sold throughout my childhood, how many other children who have been through the adoption, foster, and CPS pipelines have also been trafficked to Epstein's Elk.
And as many of you guys know already, based on the work that we do at the Karis Project, I'm an American Indian born in Canada under the Jay Treaty. My father and I were exposed in the improper contagion mitigations for the COVID pandemic in early 2020. As a result of this, I lost everything: a house, cars, corporate assets, jobs. Bank accounts were shut down in Canada, and I fled to the US as an American Indian, fully documented, and was trafficked by rogue agents in ICE and other agents in the government, and forced to live with single American men. I was even imprisoned for 7 months initially, and then trafficked throughout the states. Put on full surveillance tracking and wasn't allowed to leave the city, house, or state without permission, or work without permission. And that happened for many years, and I was on and off the streets because of that, and in and out of shelters. And that is just a small example of what many go through in this trafficking system, be it the family courts or otherwise. So that's why the Karis Project will be going to DC to speak with representatives and do live reporting. We're also going to be in contact with other families who are dealing with human trafficking, and through the CPS courts or through any other means, lesser versions of trafficking, and doing reporting on them live and otherwise. We will also be working on we ultimately want to shine light on what's going on with the trafficking here in the US. And we also want to meet with various agencies in DC, and we'll be going back and forth for training sessions and other things so that we can be better equipped to help people deal with resolving some of the issues that we're seeing. We will also be putting forth petitions in government to help people get justice, and that's something that we have been working on already so far. We have some petitions that have recently been filed in the state of Colorado, Michigan, Texas, and Arizona, and we will be continuing.
But we can't do this on our own. We will be traveling to events and training courses, as well as DC on a consistent basis. We also have to get acceptable equipment, such as computers, cameras, interview gear, etc. There will be other miscellaneous costs that would also be like gas, food, and rooms if necessary.
So that is why we are working towards combating human trafficking, and that is exactly why we need your help. We cannot do this alone, and most what the Karis Project does is on its own dime. And so we do love and appreciate each and every one of you that support us and all the work that we do. As many of you know, we also live stream on Lindell TV every day. And everything we do, like I said, is on our own dime. So we appreciate all the love and support and all the people who do donate. And we would very much love and appreciate that still. Thank you everybody for your time and considerations. And thank you for all the support. And we will catch you guys in the next one, and hopefully we might see you guys in the future and come across you and maybe be able to do some great things together.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Karis Project podcast. Today we have an interesting episode planned for everybody here. Kaysha, you want to just kind of fill people in on what's been going on with you?
Hello, friends. What's good in the proverbial hood? It's been a long day, so my English is off the whack. But even though it's my first language, LOL. Yeah, today I was in Washington, as you guys saw, DC. Did an interview with Gloria, that was awesome. Go check that out. We did some great things, the Karis Project, me and Jen Guskin, this past week. And that was very cool. Here we are, back again. Yeah, we're gonna have an interesting episode today. We're gonna about the glitch in the matrix. I don't know. Today, honestly, I met a bunch of great people, though. To be fair, I met a bunch of great people and survivors, and I'm coming to more reality. I think that's why I'm a little bit, slow right now. I'm just coming more to reality of life. Every time I go to these events and meet more people, life is becoming more clear to me, and the importance of like having good men in your life and the difference in the way that you operate, and when you have good support systems around you, it's incredible experiences. But anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, today we're going to be looking at more of the effects of what's happening. This is nothing necessarily to do with any of the people that we're going to be looking at as people. It's more of the effects of the actions, because actually one of them I quite like what she has to say a lot of the times when I listen to what she says. But we're looking at a generational gap. We're looking at 3 different performers in the adult industry. Some of the former, Lisa Ann, which is older, she talks about some of the stuff and the issues that were raised with some of the younger one. And then we're going to look at a clip or 2 from Angela White, who's a millennial. And then we're going to start off with Lily Phillips, who is a Gen Z.
She's a Gen Z.
Yeah, she's a Gen Z. She said this on
the
interview. So we're going to look at this because this is not about them themselves, but it's to indicate something that's an issue that we've identified. A lot of people identified, even people within the industry. And this is kind of what we're going to focus on, because everybody should agree with what we bring across today, because if you don't, it's a big problem. So let's get to it. So let's see. Let me make sure that this is the right clip that we bring up first, because we just want to listen to some of the things that are being said in this interview. Yeah, so that's the first one. This is an interview that I saw with Lily Phillips that I came across, and I was like, what? When I heard some of the stuff that went on, and it made more sense. So let's just start. Let's get to it.
To give people a little bit of background to you, you've said you had a picture-perfect childhood, you've got amazing parents, you've had a very happy upbringing.
Yeah. So my parents are both together. I have one older brother, and we just had the perfect upbringing in a little village. No kind of past trauma or anything like that. My parents raised us perfectly. Just honestly, it was perfect.
You say your parents are really supportive of what you do, and people just don't believe you when you say that.
Yeah, so it's tricky really, because they were super supportive when I went into OnlyFans. They understand that it makes me really happy. I'm not hurting anyone, I'm safe. So they thought, kind of, why not? It was only till I took things to the next level and started doing more porn and these kind of events that's when they don't quite support me doing these events, but they support me and they'll always love me and have my back. That's kind of how I describe it.
And when you say they don't support you doing these events, what events are you talking about?
So I do big sex events where the members of public can come to and join in. So I have sex with quite a lot of gentlemen or women. And yeah, these events for all ages above 18, for anyone to kind of show up.
And can you explain why they don't support that?
I think they just don't find it necessary. It's not something they would have chosen for me to do. I don't think any parent wakes up and goes, I want my kid to be a porn star when they're older. But they understand that it makes me happy. So they, and also they understand that I am an adult and a woman, and I can choose to do what I want.
Yeah. So she's got a very different perspective on things, right? I mean, you can tell with the youth and the inexperience and everything else like that, but then there's also some other issues that are going on as well, and so forth. But Kaysha, any thoughts on that?
Shout out to the Karis Project merch t-shirt. Get you one. Only the real ones have it. But you know, it's crazy. What she's saying is actually crazy because your parents cannot raise you perfectly in a perfect childhood, but they supported you to go in OnlyFans. Like your mom to want her daughter. I don't have any children, but like if I had a daughter, it would break my heart. I would feel to her like, what did I do wrong to hurt you like that? Like I would feel like, why do you think you have to take this route? If a father is like, okay, that's just crazy to me because I have a dad. I didn't grow up to my mom, but I have a dad and a grandma and great grandma. Well, my great grandma passed away, but like they raised me still, and everything was about protecting my purity and my innocence, like so that I don't have to be traumatized like unnecessarily. Like they wanted me to have boundaries for myself and protect myself from bad people. And because all you can do is defend yourself, you can't force other people's behavior. So it's like a parent's that's gonna say, I support you in breaking boundaries that's gonna hurt you like down the line, like even if they think in the moment, like that's just really hard to conceptualize because like you know as a parent, like I can't, that's so dangerous. The behavior in and of itself of sleeping around is so dangerous. She could get a disease and die. She could get hurt. She did get hurt. The other girl had to go get a reconstruction surgery.
Was that
It's
with
like,
her or was that with Bonnie Blue? I can't even
no,
remember.
her friend that came with her.
It was her that did that thing.
Oh wait, you're saying Bonnie Blue is the different girl? This girl is not Bonnie Blue?
No, I
Oh,
can't. I have a
oh,
hard time telling them apart with them
they
doing
look
a
the
lot
same.
of their stunts and so forth. But what I
Okay,
want,
but the it still is possibility to get that badly hurt.
yes, but I want people to listen to what she says in this next clip, right? So this, she said she had a perfect upbringing, but then she said, listen to this.
Your generation, Gen Z, has grown up with pornography being easily available on smartphones. How do you think that has influenced you?
Honestly, I probably watched pornography first when I was maybe 11. And so I've always known about it. I've always knew it was a thing. And I always thought it was very normal to watch. And I personally don't think pornography is a bad thing in moderation. I just think it's when younger adults have a lot of access to it, that's when it does become a problem.
But if you started watching it at 11,
Yeah.
I mean, that is so young.
Yeah.
Can you describe how it has influenced you and your brain and your outlook on sex?
You know what? It actually made me really sex confident and learn a lot of things. I mean, that's mostly how I learned through pornography. And I do think it has a positive effect on me, just in terms of like understanding things a little bit more.
Right. But as we know, what we see in pornography online can be extreme. Is not normal.
It depends what type of pornography you're watching. That's what I would say.
Okay. When you look back and reflect on the fact that you had access to this pornography and were looking at it from the age of 11, and not just you, any Gen Z who's got a smartphone, does that suggest to you that maybe your generation has been let down by politicians or the tech companies or even parents?
I think it's hard because sex is a part of life, and I don't.
But not when you're 11.
But I think you should be learning from it from that age. I do believe that, because that's when you start to think about things like that.
But learning
maybe not
via
learning
pornography?
Yeah, maybe not learning from pornography, but I do think understanding it more from that age would be helpful.
Is there a direct link between you watching pornography as you grew up and the decisions you've made to do what you do now?
I think maybe. I mean, I don't know a life without pornography.
Yes. So
I
that
said, I don't know life without pornography. Who introduced her to pornography? Was it at school? Like when I was at school and they showed us like in a sex ed class, the cartoon videos of the people jumping in bed together naked? Like, was it that kind of introduction, or was it a friend or like a family? Like, how was it? Like, that's weird.
she's 11 years old.
That's what I'm talking about.
Right? Like, she's like, well, it's made me more sex confident. You're a child. You were 11 years old and you were consuming pornography. Now you see how she does. She's like, well, maybe other kids shouldn't have it, but it was fine for me. Do you like? The fact of the matter is that she was accessing pornography at 11 years old. This is not uncommon. This is what I'm trying to say here is that the access, when you sit down and understand that she's watching pornography at 11, some of the things begin to make sense because you don't have the capacity to make sense of that. You're a child. You just can't do that, right? So you give pornography to a child at 11, you're going to destroy them. Like, you can't undo that, right? Like, the damage is, like, it's not like you can't undo what was done, right? Like, she already was exposed to the pornography. Now, to undo that or to reverse or stop the damage from that is going to take a lot more work than it did to destroy or warp her mind at that young age, because it does unspeakable things. Nobody at 11 years old should have pornography. Like, I don't care what you say. If you want to argue about pornography in adults, that's a different story, but nobody in their right mind would agree that it was okay for her to be accessing this at 11 years old. Nobody. And if you did, there's something wrong with you, right? So I just want to bring up another clip here. And this is Lisa Ann talking about porn with Gen X, which is Lily's generation.
I think it's Gen Zers. They're having the least amount of sex than any other. And it has to be
the least amount of sex of any generation.
And why is that?
Lowest teen pregnancy of any generation.
Yeah.
Because
part of that sounds good, but then my guess is it might be for the wrong reasons, though, right?
It is not good. It's part of what you saw. Now, I'm watching The Social Dilemma tonight.
Okay.
My neighbors and I are all getting together because we think this is a good conversation piece where you should watch it and then sit and talk about it afterwards.
Yeah.
So we're getting together to watch this. It's about what your reason is. Now, I have a lot of young girls that have told me they've had one sexual experience that scared them and now they're not having sex at all. That's the Gen Xers. And that's from the young guys at 10 watching porn and thinking it's okay to choke a girl the first time they have sex with her. And she's like, what just happened here? I'm never doing this again.
Right.
Yeah.
Their phones are more important to them than their vehicles. Like, there was a survey last year. Would you rather have your parents take your car away for a year or your phone? Every kid chose their phone because they can use their phone to get an Uber.
Right.
Yeah.
They don't want the responsibility of the car.
Yeah.
The same thing is going on with communication. They can talk with their friends here, but why bother? It's so much work to meet in person. And to meet in person means then you have to try, then you have to engage, then you have to try and like make that move to hook up. The no sex thing, I think, is very unhealthy.
Yeah. And to me, like, when I say it sounds good, and that's because we're in a rather moralizing culture, right? That puts a premium on, and by the way, we even use weird language around it. I took her virginity. Really? What did you do with it?
Right.
Can you give it? Can I give it to someone else?
Right. She was a willing participant.
Yeah.
She shared it with you.
Right. And by the way,
yeah.
And now that she doesn't have it, what am I able to do something with it? Like we use this language without even realizing, like, that's a very normal thing for us to use, but it should be abnormal. The way that we talk about sex is often guilty or shameful, and we even have a question about that in a little bit.
Sorry. So they talk about the issues that they're having with the sex or the low sex because of what's happening. And she talks about the boys strangling the girls and stuff like that because he's watching porn from at 10 years old. Now you're looking at a girl who is watching porn from 11 years old, right? And so now this is something that this is something that's an issue. It's a very big problem. Like the pornography being in the hands of children is a massive issue. And a lot of people don't even realize how bad it is. But it's extremely bad. And a lot of the people that are involved in it, that are, for example, making the pornography, they don't see the full effects of everything that's going on. They don't. But there's a lot of people that have a very good idea. And this is kind of what we're wanting to lay out, because we're looking at what is being done, what is happening. This is what I want people to understand. Don't look at the people like the people could be there. Let's just say they could be arbitrary. You could have them X, Y, and Z for all I care. What we're looking at is the process of what's happening. And some people and certain people are doing this with knowledge and intent of what's going on. A lot of these people do not have this. But we're going to listen to another clip here. And this is get the right one here. This is the right one. This is Angela White. She is a millennial. She did her thesis on sex working and so forth. But I'm bringing this clip up because now you're looking at her doing something for a specific reason. And now think of an 11-year-old child. And I'm not saying that she's the one responsible for this, because she's not. She didn't come and decide to say, I'm here to make content to poison the minds of children. She's not. But listen to what she's saying of what she's doing, and now imagine that in the hands of an 11 or a 10-year boy or girl.
Women like you taking, this message and using, porn as a platform for it, which is just so different. I mean, porn before was always, this dirty, seedy underbelly of media, and, it was just to, get guys hard and that's it. But now it's like, it's become so much more complex, and there's a message behind it now. And it's just like, it's evolved into something so much bigger than just porn. And it's been such an exciting thing to witness.
Yeah. And I mean, pretty much everybody watches porn. So it is actually a very powerful platform.
Yes.
And it's also powerful because when people are watching porn, they're often masturbating, and when you're masturbating and you receive messages when you're in that pleasure zone, it's a it can kind of seep in, and
because it is an intimate, vulnerable time, right?
Yes.
I mean, people always privately, well, not everybody, but you know what I'm saying? It's like a private moment where you lock your bedroom door and you put on headphones or whatever, your roommates hear, God forbid, your mom to walk in or something like that. So it is this private, intimate moment. So yeah, I could see how it is this vulnerable time that you could be, giving people not only pleasure, but, I don't want to say teaching them a morality lesson, but there's almost something to that there.
The way I see it is more giving them the opportunity to think of, giving the opportunity to see different ways of being, or different ways of exploring their sexuality, different ways of experiencing the world, different ways of interacting with people. So even if it's for example, I've had fans that have been following me since 2003, fans that just started following me because they like big breasts, never expecting that I would do a trans scene.
Mm-hmm.
And now, because they followed me through this time, they may have never expected to enjoy watching a trans scene themselves, but because they're my fan, they've committed to watching the movie, and then suddenly they watch it and wow, they're exposed to a different, a different kind of sex that they end up enjoying. I like that there's this, in that vulnerable space where you're masturbating, you're open to new ideas, and it's in the privacy mostly of your own home. And so, I like being exposed to myself. I like being exposed to different ideas and different ways of being. And I hope that my fans do too.
Have you had any feedback from any of your fans who've said, before I would have never watched a trans scene, or I would have never watched a BBW scene or something like that, but then I've watched because you were in it, and I've found that maybe that's something I could be into.
Yes. I've had a lot of feedback like that.
That's got to be kind of an amazing experience to feel like you're changing people's minds about what they find sexy.
Yeah.
And opening people's, opening these pathways to different, kind of different sexual preferences.
Yeah. And that's why I feel like I have a responsibility with this platform as well to do something good with it. If I can leave the industry, not that I have any plans on doing so anytime soon.
Don't
but
you go.
No, I'm not going. I'm saying,
we need you.
But if I can,
you make us look good. Please don't leave.
But if I can leave knowing that I've had a positive impact,
right?
Not just on my life. I've already had an incredibly positive impact on my own life through being part of this amazing community. But if I can expand that and have a positive impact on other people's lives, that's incredible to me.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, well, we're going to.
So now somebody's taking her desire to do this with adults, and they're now pushing that same thing to children. It's not her. She's trying to do something what she's talking about. Some of these places that are making this kind of stuff accessible, children, what is going to happen when that's in the hand of a child? That 10-year-old boy or the 11-year-old girl, just like Lily Phillips talked about, right? This is where this begins to become very problematic, because when you're looking at what is being done and what is happening, and then they say that this is something that they're gearing towards adults, but lo and behold, you've got 10 and 11-year-old, 9-year-old children coming and accessing that thing. So when they're using this as a teaching tool, and the child is beginning to do this, and a lot of children talk about this when they were watching this kind of stuff, and they began to touch themselves and all these kinds of things. How do you think you're going to reinforce that in a child's mind? And then when you look at what Lily Phillips was saying, she's like, I don't know if it affected you. Well, what do you mean it didn't? You don't know if it affected you. Like, really? Well, she doesn't know she has nothing to gauge it to, because all she knew was the life of having porn as a child. Right?
Yeah, that's the typical Gen Z. I think, though, like they said, it's a typical Gen Z experience, probably, and not just because of the technology they gave us, but what they exposed children to in schools, and who knows what their families were doing individually. It's a mess. That's a whole mess. There's nothing perfect about what she's saying. Like, her idea of what a perfect childhood is clearly skewed. That's crazy to me, honestly.
Yes, because she has nothing to compare it to once you've been exposed to that. Like, she doesn't know what normal teen.
But that's why I said, like, why? What? Like, how did she? That's why I said, like, how did she get exposed to it? Because, like, it would be a different thing if, like, she came out of foster care, or if she was in foster care and she was abused, or like, it would make more sense. But, like, I'm trying to understand, like, what is actually going on.
Remember
she's
when
not being honest.
remember when, well, it could also be through the phone. Remember when you wanted a phone and unfettered access, and I was like, no, you didn't until you get it till you were much older. A lot of kids that you saw that they had the phones from when they were young, a lot of them, that's how they got access to pornography. Somebody showed them, and then they continue to do this, or they got on the internet with unfettered access, and a lot, like, there's multiple ways. Like, I
Yeah,
mean,
I know, like the phone, but I'm saying, like, I'm not talking about the phone in itself, like, because if you're traumatized as a kid, you don't even need the phone to get you to that outcome, is what I'm saying. Like, how did she get there, is what I'm saying. Like, how did she get to the that's my point. Like, it doesn't make sense that she made this decision if what she's saying is true, which means it's not true. Like, 1 plus 1 doesn't equal 3, is what
well,
I'm trying to say.
yes, we don't know. She hasn't said anything, but what we do know is that the introduction of that pornography had an impact on her life. But until we
Of
figure out
course it
the
did.
rest of it, we don't know how it got there. But we know that that introduction is not a good thing. And most, like any reasonable person, would sit down and say this. Let's stop here for a quick commercial break before we get to the next clip.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. You know, I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, MyPillows, towels, slippers, blankets.
I'm interrupted this commercial to do something I've never done before. Get 2 MyPillows absolutely free on orders of $100 or more. I can't do this forever, so get on board with this great sale today. Our best-selling 6-piece bath towel sets or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Our famous standard MyPillows only $14.98. Queens $18.98. King size only $1 more. Body pillows $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color. So go to MyPillow.com or call that number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And when you spend $100 or more, get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Yeah, and if you need any MyPillow products, go to mypillow.com/Karis or call 800-845-2942. Use the promo code Karis. They got all good kinds of good stuff, pillows, bed sheets, kitchen stuff, and all that stuff. And so, kind of back to like circling back what we're doing here. I'm gonna pull up another clip here where it is discussing something that I think that people should hear about when she's having a discussion about pornography and the brain, and a comment that was made by another person. I think it was Billie Eilish, if I said her name correctly. But let's listen to this clip.
So maybe.
Billie Eilish is the same age as you. She says she started watching pornography at 11. You've just told us the same age. She says it destroyed her brain. Could it have destroyed yours?
I think it really depends on how frequent you're watching it. I see people nowadays who watch too much too soon and they become very desensitized to it, and that means then they have to watch more and more extreme stuff. I personally wasn't like that. I didn't watch it often enough at all. So I don't think it's destroyed me personally, but I do believe it's destroyed people my age, 100%.
Can I ask, do you see yourself as a feminist?
I do, yes. Yeah.
In what way?
Well, obviously, a feminist means you want equality between men and women. And that is honestly what I'm striving for. I mean, it shows me just being in this industry how we don't have that yet. And that is something I'd love to get to.
Yes. And so again here, this is I don't even know what to say anymore here when you come down and look at this situation. She will admit that it will destroy someone else's brain, but not hers. And this is where you can't sit down and say, okay, is your brain completely destroyed? No, you're obviously able to talk and function and so forth. But has there been damage? Of course there has been. And this is where we have to start looking at the things, because Like she said, she has nothing that she can compare this to. And the fact of the matter is that when you give a child pornography at that young, it will impact their life. It will impact them in some way, shape, or form. How much for each child, we don't know. But what we do know is that children should never be accessing this. 100%. Any thoughts on this, Kaysha?
She's just delusional. Like, she thinks that it's not going to affect her because, like, she feels it's like she thinks that it's like rules for thee, but not for me. And she thinks that, she can, for some reason, separate herself from it. But obviously, she can't because I never seen, like, there's people who watch porn all the time and they're not going out and recording themselves sleep with 1,000 men in one day. Like, she's brain is clearly destroyed, and she doesn't even have rational thinking at this point. If she's going to say stuff like this, she doesn't have the ability to self-reflect and be like, you know what this is doing is actually harming, what is actually harming me and hurting the way that I, think and operate on a day-to-day basis. And like, she's traumatizing herself. Like, she doesn't want to confess, like, but it doesn't matter because her actions show that her brain is damaged. And that's typical with, I think, Gen Z people, because like I said, you could have a phone or not a phone. A lot of schools introduced Gen Z to like pornography in some fashion, or like the sexual education classes were not just biology based classes. They were actually talking about things that children should never be talking about in class with their teachers, and seeing things that they shouldn't be seeing. And I think it exacerbated the sexualization of a lot of people who were in that generation and really damaged their brain.
They're grooming the children in school.
Yeah, they're grooming, and a lot of kids like went AWOL after like we started having the sex ed classes. Like, a lot of kids started acting out like physically and intimately with other kids. So it's like, it's on purpose. Like what Lisa Ann said, that our generation sleeps around the least, or there's less children. I don't know if that's because they're sleeping around less or they're just killing their babies more, because I feel like there's hoes everywhere. I don't know, but I do understand what Lisa Ann said about women's being so traumatized intimately that they don't want to even risk the experience. So that makes sense. But at the same time, I think, I don't know.
I think what
I see both ends of it.
I think what you're seeing is a lot of girls that are not having sex because they're afraid of what's happening. And then you're seeing some girls going the other way that are becoming extremely hypersexualized. And that this is creating
extremes.
Yes. Right. And so this is something that we have to sit down, because when you start going to extremes on things, this is where you start to have very bad problems very fast. And this,
what she said, wait, before you continue, sorry. Something she said, it made her confident sexually. Why would she need sexual confidence at 11? Someone did something bad to her. It sounds like she had a bad experience. What kind of an 11-year-old would say, I need sexual confidence? Why would she think that way? Why would she be sex conscious at 11 years old? That's why the lady was like, at 11. Yeah, she said that. Yes, she did. So yeah, something happened to her. She doesn't want to talk about it. I don't believe she's as innocent and perfect life as she's talking about. I think she had something. There's no kid. What 11-year-old says something like that in their mind? It made me sexually confident. Why? Why did you need that at 11?
Well, when you're being exposed to like material like this, that as an adult, like, I mean, that you should never have as a child, nobody knows full well what the outcome is, right?
But at 11, you're not.
Nobody knows the full extent of the damage. Like, you can't sit down and say, okay, if I expose little Johnny to X amount of porn at 10 years old, that this is going to be the result. You don't know that. Nobody wants to do an experiment like that because it's nasty, right? Like,
unethical. Yeah, it's disgusting.
Like,
It's
yes,
beyond unethical. Disgusting. Yeah.
it's like demonic, straight out. Like, so nobody really knows how much or how little it's going to affect somebody, but you know it's going to affect them, and it's going to do bad things to your brain. It is wrong. It is
Yeah, but sorry, go ahead.
yes, you shouldn't do it. Right?
I
Shouldn't
mean,
be done.
I'm just saying that it seems to me that her looking to the pornography for a sex confidence was because of an initial problem of something else that led her to look for a different solution. And that's why it doesn't make sense to me. There's information missing clearly. I don't know the woman, but there's clearly something wrong with her. Something like she's clearly lying or delusional or like, something.
I don't know what it is, but
the math is not math.
You'll start listening to things and beginning to sit down and see things. But let's listen to another clip from her.
And what do you think of those guys? What were they like?
A lot of them were lovely, honestly. Just very, very regular guys. We had lawyers, we had policemen, we had, people flying from Sweden, Eurostar from France, a couple from America. Like, they were just bang average guys.
And if your older brother or your dad turned up to be one of those 101 men to have sex with someone like you, what would you think of them?
If they're single, it's their own free will to have sex with who they like, and all power to them.
And why do you think they all wanted to be anonymous?
I believe it's because a lot of them had jobs and family that they wouldn't want to find out that they do this. And I think that's totally fair.
Do you respect those men?
I do. I see them as regular men wanting to have a good time. I don't think too much deeply into who they are.
Do you think they respected you?
I think a lot of them did. Not necessarily all of them, but yeah.
And how did you know that the ones who didn't necessarily respect you didn't?
I think some of them disrespected my choice to have a time limit on our sex. And that was when I thought, you're not respecting this, that this is, for me, these are the rules, we have sex for this amount of time, we film it, and those are the kind of rules. And that's when I thought, maybe a couple are disrespecting me.
This is one dynamic that once happens when you, for example, watch pornography and so forth. And you're doing this as a child. You're having a one-way relationship with someone. You're having sexual gratification with someone who can't respond. It gives you a tendency to start objectifying people. And this is where, at a young age, your brain is not going to be able to process this. And when you begin to start looking at the way that, like, her and I guess the other girl, Bonnie Blue, they're basically just using these guys as props to make all their bag and so forth. This is extreme objectification of a human being. And when you look at the fact that when you're looking at the ability to just go ahead and not think of somebody else and so forth, because in other places they would pay people. These guys are training them to come up, line up for free and whatever else like that. Come do this, and I'm going to make my 6 or 7 figures every month, and you're going to just get nothing, and you're going to come in and bag your face and all of this kind of stuff, right? Like, I mean, this is a wrong mindset, right? I mean, regardless of whatever, but you can start to see where some of these things potentially could be this way. I don't know. I'm not a woman. I'm just looking at some of these situations. But when she tells me, and out of her own mouth, that she said at 11 years old she was watching pornography, I have to start asking questions on how did this affect her life. And when I start seeing some of the decisions that even other people that are even in this industry are saying that, what are you doing? Because of some of the things that they're doing, it becomes problematic. So go ahead. Thoughts?
I mean, I don't know what to say. I think she's lying. I just think she's lying. Obviously it's gonna be bad. I think it's clear it's gonna be bad. That's exposing a kid to something like that. But that my generation, I think it's kind of like a slippery slope kind of thing, because my generation, I feel like, cares about everything but nothing at the same time. And that sounds very strange, but I think they're desensitized and far removed from a lot of things emotionally, and they just really don't care. There's a lot of things that they literally just do not care about, and that's one of them. And maybe they don't understand the effects fully, but it's not normal to think the way that she thinks. Even a rational human being would realize that they're being affected by watching pornography, and the level at which she's processing information and operating tells me that not only is she affected by the decisions that she was making, but she didn't grow up in a home that was actually creating the circumstances for her success. She was not in a home that was actually helping her, or else she would never have come to these conclusions. She would have been able to reason that, what she was doing was hurting herself. So I have so many more questions, as she's talking, but at the same time, I want to be careful with what I say, because it's she's lying.
Well, she's obviously, I think she's hiding something. She's not saying everything, right? She's saying whatever needs to be said, but she gave out information, and generally people don't.
Or she might not even realize that what she's saying is not true. I don't know.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but I'm just going on the stuff that I can see and that I can kind of follow what's going on. But this is something that I want kind of people to sit down on this next clip that she starts to talk about, right?
You get masses of hate comments. You've said you are screamed at in the street. What kind of abuse do you get?
All kinds. I'm disgusting. I'm dirty. I've had every comment underneath the sun. I mean, I can show you a few of just a little bit of the hate I've had. So I will start off. The things females will do for money. Disgusting and sad. Whores must be destroyed.
Whores must be destroyed?
Yeah.
Does that make you feel unsafe? Or?
Not really. I guess it's just whores long. Disgusting, ugly, mid-whore. Don't you have a litter box to go clean? You're actually ugly, sorry. So these are just a little bit of a mix of comments.
Does it bother you?
No, not really. I think everyone's going to have their opinions, especially when you have so many viewers. You're always going to get some kind of negativity.
I wanted to ask you if you think the rise of women creating pornography on OnlyFans is linked in any way, and it may not be, and I'm not suggesting that one is the cause of the other, but is linked in any way to the grotesque discourse online about women.
100%.
Really?
Yeah. I feel like as you've seen the growth of more OnlyFans and more pornography being pushed out on social media, you've also seen a growth in these red pill men who push out very opposite views. It's two very extreme things.
And the red pill, for anyone who doesn't know, supposedly, I mean, it's from the film The Matrix. You take the red, you choose to take the red pill.
Is that where it's from?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
And that apparently, as a man, it wakes you up to the reality of men being oppressed by women and feminists. In the manosphere, there are people who say the more you have sex, the more diminished you are.
But I think there's always been women like me who have sex. It's just the difference is now we talk about it online and we're open about it.
So there you go. She then says that the OnlyFans is causing the hatred towards some of the women online. And then they mention the red pill and how this comes together. And what you're seeing is two sides pushing and feeding at each other. And this is a big problem. What she's beginning to explain, and we're going to look at this more deeply on the other side of this, on the next section of this, because we're getting close to the end of the time, but we're going to start looking at some other issues, and we're going to start highlighting some differences, because again, this is more about what is being done, not the individual people themselves, because people need to understand what is happening, not just who is doing what. Looking at that woman, because if it wasn't her, guarantee you there'd be somebody else. So it's not about just one person. It's about getting certain kinds of people to fill a job, because not and this isn't all just random happenstance either. So don't kid yourself, because these people are there to make money, and some people, and I'm not talking just about her, talking about other people who are making money, who are trying to drive these types of things in, to happen this way, right? This isn't just like random happenstance, and that everything just fell into place to have all of this type of stuff happening. It just didn't happen. So anyway, any thoughts that we have to say before we start getting ready to wind this segment down? Because I mean, at the end of the day, we need to start thinking about how these things are happening, what is going on. The fact of the matter is that this yet again is a woman who is exposed to pornography. She's engaging in some risky behavior with the amount of hate and stuff like that, and things that they're doing that are becoming more extreme. You're putting your life at risk, the safety at risk. And I mean, like, we've listened to Lisa Ann talk about it. She never did any of this kind of stuff. And she's like my generation. And she had problems from that. Imagine what this woman who did this would be if it was 20 years from now of continuing this type of on this trajectory. What where is the safety for herself and other people going to be like as a result of this type of behavior? Right? Because the more that she does this, the more condemnation, the more people are going to come back and do this type of behavior. And at some point, some of the people don't seem like they have an understanding of what could potentially happen. Like, some of these people, I mean, they could end up dead. Like, I mean, people try to kill these people and all kinds of things, right? And for people for less, right? And not saying that anybody deserves to be killed. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying when you start getting and pushing things way too far, way too fast, you're going to get a lot of psychos coming out of the woodworks. That's just the way it is, right? Not every we people shouldn't do wrong things, but we live in a world where people make wrong choices. We have to account for that, right? Like, I mean, we're not in a perfect society, right? We're not. So when I look at something and you do something, you're like, well, you know what? If I do this, there's a potential that this may happen. Is it worthwhile doing? Right? And this is where people have to start weighing the risks and the benefits of doing things. But one thing we know, her life would be a lot different had she not been exposed to pornography. How much different, we don't know, but we know it would be different, much different. So I'm going to close this segment with a prayer, and I'll give you your final thoughts here, Kaysha. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your love, grace, and mercy. We thank you for the hope that you have given us this day. Open our hearts and our minds to your will. And, oh, Father, this day, Lord, I ask of you to get the men and the women to come together to protect their families, to rebuild their families, their churches, their community, and a nation, that, Lord, we can keep the children protected from this kind of filth that should never be in their hands, never should be exposed to them, so that their minds would be preserved and to be pure, is my prayer in Jesus' name.
Amen. Thanks, Dad, for the prayer as always. Yeah, guys, if you're watching Frank's speech, or sorry, or Lindell TV, I'm sorry. If you're watching Lindell TV, you'll see part 2 on the other side. And if you are, you'll see part 2 tomorrow If you're watching tonight, you'll see it on the other side. Anyways, thanks for your time and considerations. We'll catch you in the next one. To my dearest Karis, until we meet again, my friend, and we will. Ciao. Hey everybody, Kaysha here, and today I am here with my friend
Jennifer Guskin,
and we need your help. We are right now working on advocacy for combating human trafficking, and here's why. So we'll give you a little bit of background of our story and why we're doing what we're doing.
I was adopted as an infant by a couple who sold me throughout my childhood. I have been to Epstein Island and on multiple Lolita Express types of flights as a child. After I went public, Child Protective Services opened a substance-exposed newborn case, even though all tests came back negative, and they told me that if I wouldn't stop posting on social media, I would never see my daughter again. I started to connect how I was adopted as an infant and then sold throughout my childhood, how many other children who have been through the adoption, foster, and CPS pipelines have also been trafficked to Epstein's Elk.
And as many of you guys know already, based on the work that we do at the Karis Project, I'm an American Indian born in Canada under the J Treaty. My father and I were exposed in the improper contagion mitigation for the COVID pandemic in early 2020. As a result of this, I lost everything: a house, cars, corporate assets, jobs. Bank accounts were shut down in Canada, and I fled to the US as an American Indian, fully documented, and was trafficked by rogue agents in ICE and other agents in the government, and forced to live with single American men. I was even imprisoned for 7 months initially, and then trafficked throughout the states. Put on full surveillance tracking and wasn't allowed to leave the city house or state without permission or work without permission. And that happened for many years, and I was on and off the streets because of that, and in and out of shelters. And that is just a small example of what many go through in this trafficking system, be it the family courts or otherwise. So that's why the Karis Project will be going to DC to speak with representatives and do live reporting. We're also going to be in contact with other families who are dealing with human trafficking, and through the CPS courts or through any other means, lesser versions of trafficking, and doing reporting on them live and otherwise. We will also be working on, we ultimately want to shine light on what's going on with the trafficking here in the US. And we also want to meet with various agencies in DC, and we'll be going back and forth for training sessions and other things so that we can be better equipped to help people deal with resolving some of the issues that we're seeing. We will also be putting forth petitions in government to help people get justice, and that's something that we have been working on already so far. We have some petitions that have recently been filed in the state of Colorado, Michigan, Texas, and Arizona, and we will be continuing.
But we can't do this on our own. We will be traveling to events and training courses, as well as DC on a consistent basis. We also have to get acceptable equipment, such as computers, cameras, interview gear, etc. There will be other miscellaneous costs that would also be like gas, food, and rooms if necessary.
So that is why we are working towards combating human trafficking, and that is exactly why we need your help. We cannot do this alone, and most what the Karis Project does is on its own dime. And so we do love and appreciate each and every one of you that support us and all the work that we do. As many of you know, we also live stream on Lindell TV every day. And everything we do, like I said, is on our own dime. So we appreciate all the love and support and all the people who do donate. And we would very much love and appreciate that still. Thank you, everybody, for your time and considerations. And thank you for all the support. And we will catch you guys in the next one, and hopefully we might see you guys in the future and come across you and maybe be able to do some great things together.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Karis Project podcast. We are back again to talk about a little bit more of what is going on and what is happening with this whole situation. And so, Kaysha, do you have any things to say before we get into this next next set of clips about what we were watching the last time? Your perspective as a Gen Z with this kind of what goes on with the grooming in school and all that kind of stuff that helps this situation along.
Yeah, hey everybody. Yeah, we're talking about Lily Phillips and her nonsense ongoing. Yeah, like I said, the Gen Z, they had the grooming from the school. From from grade 3 or 4, they had what do they call it? Sex ed classes, and the stuff that they showed students there made them act out. From what I saw and what I remember, if she's a Gen Z, then that could have contributed. And the fact that she said that watching pornography at 11 gave her sexual confidence, which makes me think that something bad might have happened to her, which would make me really sad, because why would a kid need a solution in that way? I have a lot of questions in my brain, but I don't know, Gen Z is it's a very strange generation, because like I said, I understand what Lisa Ann was talking about, where a lot of the women are traumatized because they don't emotionally, so they don't want to engage with things because of what the porn is doing to the experiences. The experience are not obviously what the Bible says, where you're supposed to love and cherish a woman, and so they're doing very backwards things. They're either becoming gay, like Lisa Ann said, or they are going the opposite end extreme and trying to find a different level of taking back power and control through sexual experiences. And it's doing a lot of damage. Our generation, the Gen Z, in a lot of ways is cooked. And then on top of it, her parents gave her the okay to do a lot of the, I blame the parents. I blame the father more than anything, because the fact that her parents said that they support her and they're okay with that, that makes me really sad. Like, it's irritating me. Like, I'm very irritated listening to this. It makes me very angry. Like, I don't want to like be a D-bag, but like I'm very irritated. Like, I'm tired of seeing this kind of stuff and hearing about this kind of stuff. Like, it's a consequence nobody wants to deal with, actually.
Well, and it needs to get dealt with because it's a huge issue, an extremely large issue that needs to get dealt with that people are ignoring quite often, right?
What pisses me off is the fact that the red pill people are going to act like, okay, we need to destroy her. We need to destroy all the whores. Okay, why aren't we destroying the predators who create her? Why aren't we destroying the people who create the circumstances for women to become that way? Because they're the ones who are going out and creating. Why would you destroy the products of the machine and let the machine keep creating new products, making new toys? Turn off the toy machine, unplug it, take it out back, bash it to pieces and burn it. And that's what these red pill people are actually doing. These red pill people also fuel women to be like her, because the more that these red pill men are aggressive and hateful and disrespectful and heartless and lack the empathy and compassion and don't read circumstances of people individually, the more easy it is for women, especially ones who are traumatized, or like especially women in Gen Z. They'll go the other way real quick. They don't care. They're like, oh, true, bye. You think that's what it is? I'll show you that's what it is. Like, they're creating demons.
I just read a comment.
I just get irritated.
I just read a comment where somebody was saying that their preteen nephew, he spoke with his preteen nephew and talked about how much exposure they're getting. That's rampant right now. Now,
yeah.
Now that he mentioned that, which is actually kind of timely, because I'm going to bring this clip up that they're talking. What did you say?
Maybe do the clip first, because like honestly, like, okay, do the clip first.
Hear this.
But Lisa Ann, let's talk about this, because I do believe it can be a problem. Now, I've done some research for this episode, and it seems to me that there isn't a real agreement as to whether or not it's an addiction. And it certainly is. If it is an addiction, it's dissimilar in terms of the brain chemistry from, say, an alcohol or drug addiction. But let's just say, we can take that off the table and say, it sounds to me like this gentleman here, some people, let's call him Tim, some people like Tim struggle with pornography.
So let me ask you how old you are.
I'm 39.
So he's in his mid-20s,
Right.
which is the ideal age to have this problem. And I'll tell you why. Because when you were younger, it was not quite as accessible on your phone.
That's so true.
The problem with adult content, though we have it labeled as 18 and up. I'll give you an example right now. If I went on the street and I sold a DVD to a minor, I would still go to jail for 15 years because you're selling adult content to a minor.
Right.
But yet any minor can go on the internet and click the green box that says he's 18.
Yeah.
So what I'm finding is, from the women I speak to and mentor that are in their mid-20s, and the men that I speak to in their mid-20s, they had a phone too early. They had access too early. And because of the rush, what they were watching created, the addiction started this chemical balance with them that they couldn't look away from, that they couldn't stop looking at. And they went down the rabbit hole deeper and deeper and deeper. Now, you probably know what your taste is, right?
Yeah.
You know what you want to watch.
Sure.
You're not young and just clicking more boxes. You're not going into a category that you know truly you feel the women are disregarded and maybe disrespected and maybe there's violence. Oh, you're not going there. But a young kid will. If he says at 10 he started watching, then he went down all of these curiosity rabbit holes. Because think about how curious you are at 10. I'm glad content wasn't accessible when I was young. I'm 48.
Me too.
You had to go to a store and you're right, they checked your ID. I mean, it was VHS. It was buried in your dad's trunk in a closet. You know, magazines barely showed anything.
Right.
Someone his age spent so much time. When he says it robbed him, I get that. Because it creates expectations of what they would think meeting a girl is going to be like, what she's going to do. And when she doesn't do those things, he's like, Why would I bother with this? This is a lot of work. I could just go home and watch my porn.
Yeah.
So now it allowed them to kind of sacrifice real engagement, real interactions, real intimacy. They don't know what real intimacy is. They know that rush they felt starting at 10 years old to watch stuff that they were not old enough to process. It's awful that we allow young people that type of access because it ruins them for so many years of their life sexually.
Yeah.
So there you have it. Now you're getting what? Go ahead.
No, I said, yeah, like a lot of men, you can tell that they have what they call like porn brain because they don't know how to interact with women in a respectful manner. And if the woman doesn't do exactly what they want in the moment, they like punish them. And women are exceptionally afraid of rejection, especially emotionally and intimately. And I think our generation has boatloads of women that are extremely traumatized emotionally and intimately, and they just don't want to do anything with men whatsoever, which is why I say, like, especially if they're traumatized, like, which is why I mentioned, like, at the beginning of the other stream, like, I the more I go to these events and meet women who are survivors, the more I understand the need for good men. And that's why a lot of the women in my generation, I think, also hate men so much, because when you see the consequences of what's going on as a woman, and you experience the consequences of what's going on, and then you realize that you're having a hard time mitigating all of these things by yourself, and then you experience maybe a man come along and that life is actually easier and it's better, and that they make you better because, like, men create circumstances in a way where you physically, mentally, and emotionally improve. And it doesn't feel good always at the beginning, or always, because they're doing things to help you grow. But the idea that could go away one day, and you would be back to square one, makes women exceptionally angry, because it's like, I'm dealing with all this potential evils, or all this potential rejection and pain, and if that goes away, then I'm going to suffer, and it's going to devastate me in a way that I won't be able to handle. And so women are choosing themselves, and they're choosing money. And it's an extremely hard thing to be a woman in today's society and not choose to try and chase money and security. Because if you have to go through, if you've experienced any level of trauma, you have to go through all of those levels of potential rejections all the time, or the guys that are like red pill or porn brain, seriously damaging you in some way by you trying to earnestly connect with them, and you'll have to rely on that. Like, it's in a lot of women's way. I'm trying to say this with, like, I'm really emotional right now. In a lot of women's minds, it's so much easier to take the risk of just getting money, because if you try to get the risk of love and they hurt you, or like they leave, and you actually have the benefit of it, you experience the benefit of it, and they leave, like, you're so cooked. I can't even explain, like, anyways, you get it.
Well,
I think you get it.
Yes, and I know when some of the people talk about their sexuality and how highly high sex drives, and there's nothing wrong with somebody having a high sex drive, right? But the problem, what you're seeing here, is that when you start sexualizing children, you're removing their boundaries. So when you're looking at what they're doing in the schools, you're getting you're getting women that are afraid to have sex, because the experience that they're having, because these guys are being exposed to pornography. You're watching some of these girls that are being exposed to pornography becoming extremely sexualized with no boundaries, and they both have problems with boundaries, and this is only going to get worse.
Well, for one, the women become feel-good addicts because in today's society, a lot of the men are not men anymore. They don't know how to fix things, and women are punished for things that they experience that completely outside of their control. And like, say you had a bad experience, or maybe you were exposed to porn at a young age and you're trying to fix that. And men today, they don't have boundaries anymore. And women just start they start trying to be feel good addicts because they, like when she said I like this, the porn gave her sexual confidence. Women will do things like that because it's easier to try and find the confidence in something bad yourself, to embolden yourself, because if you have to, like I said, if you have to seek, like, women need admiration and love and cherish and esteem, as the Bible says. And when they're not getting that, they try to fill that box themselves in a very damaging way, because then it takes like you said, there's no connectivity to what they're doing. There's what they're doing is it's a transactional thing, and they start doing these transactional behaviors which become feel good hits, and every time they're down, they have to keep upping and upping and upping the score, and that still feels better to a woman than the risk of this. Shows how vulnerable and important that vulnerability is to women. Like, it's like love is as valuable as respect for men, and that's not on the table in their mind anymore. So they're like, screw it, I'm going to throw this away, and I'm going to become a feel-good addict, and I'm going to do whatever serves me that makes me feel good, because I'll never get that from a man. It's not there. So I need to create the environment for myself. And it's literally toxic to them, but they don't know this other solution, because women don't fix things the way that men do. So it's just constant hits of crack. That's why I mentioned earlier having the certain men around, because when they have certain boundaries with you and treat you a certain way, it naturally fixes that in the mind of a woman, which will be terrified of losing that.
Yes.
And then she'll like people instead.
Now let's listen to this clip here about they're talking about some of solutions to what this pornography issue, especially with the kids.
And so let me ask you this: what is the solution to that, to the young people having access to it? Obviously, parents, we need to be engaged. We can't be with them 24 hours a day, though. So it does seem to me like there's some responsibility on the sort of Pornhubs of the world to have some sort of ability to filter out young kids.
So I spoke last year at the Oxford Union on this topic because some countries are trying to divide an ID card that is like your driver's license. Mm-hmm. You would have to scan this in to be able to access the content. It would prove how old you are. Some places are trying to do like an eye scan, but there are countries that are already ahead of the US, because in the US, this drives traffic and it makes money. Sure. So we're obviously not going to eliminate it here. But in other countries, they're working towards that. Sweden is working towards that. England is working towards that, because they see it as a problem. In other countries like Finland, Australia, their content is not the same of what we see here. When my company wants to distribute to some countries, there can't be any violence. There can't be any gagging. There can't be any, like, the angles are different. It's almost soft core because they know they can't regulate the internet. Right. There should be. You put your ID in there. The problem for parents is not checking where their kids have been looking on the internet. You know, kids will clean the cache, you know, delete their cookies. But, you know, it's also synced in with video games. So when your kid is playing video games, Pornhub is driving traffic to these devices, and all of a sudden a window comes down with boobs and the kid clicks on it. Oh my gosh, where am I now? And now the rabbit hole begins. So we're feeding it, and very guilty of it in this country, of allowing kids to have it. And they're not offering sex education on it in school. They're not teaching. Like, I try to tell young people, porn stars are like stunt people. They're most likely going to do things that a lot of other people will never do. So don't expect it in the real world. And also understand that their pay scale graduates up for those types of scenes. So when you meet the girl and take her to the dance, she's most likely not going to do what you saw in the movie.
Right. Yeah. The stunts, that's a fascinating way to put it, right? Because the truth is you can watch and enjoy, you know, a Tom Cruise stunt double do, or maybe he does some of his own stunts, I hear, right? But regardless, you can watch that. But when you try to replicate it yourself, you often get hurt. Now,
yes, some of this.
Oh, just kidding. It was
What?
light.
Yeah, some
Never
of
mind.
this, some of these things, they are helpful. Some of them are reactive. I think that when it comes down to some of the things, we need to be a little bit more proactive on top of these things. And you know, I'm not going to sit down and turn down and say suggestions that are going to help get this stuff out of the hands of children should never be explored or not being done. But I think that we need to be a little bit more proactive, especially as parents, because regardless of what other companies do, no one has the same responsibility or they have the same vested interest on the outcome of their children. So parents have to be the ones who stand in between their children and a lot of these things. And parents have to start pulling back and saying no and dealing with what needs to be dealt with so that their children are safe. Because if people can go ahead and get access and make money from this, a lot of people don't care, right? And we're gonna look at actually one of these clips where they discuss this, and we need to start looking at these things. But actually, we'll pull that up here shortly in here and just listen to this here in this context.
There was a man named Rocky Shea Franklin in Alabama, and he had drugged and overpowered a 12-year-old boy, and he filmed the assaults of this little boy, and he uploaded 23 of those videos to Pornhub with titles that actually indicated that this was abuse, like, Uncle Secret and Young Ass's Best. I mean, titles that would clearly show that this was abuse. And he verified himself. So he actually showed his ID, and they actually apprehended him, and he's in prison for 40 years for what he did. But Pornhub, that globally distributed, police actually went after Pornhub and demanded that they take those videos down, and they were ignored for 7 months while that boy's rape videos were downloaded and uploaded and got hundreds of thousands of views.
So how is it that Pornhub is still up at this point if they've done so much clearly illegal stuff? I mean, it doesn't sound like they're hiding it to that.
Well, the wheels of justice turn slowly.
Yeah.
I mean, but they are turning, and thankfully 91% of the site has been taken down, and they've faced serious repercussions. I mean, the CEO and the COO were forced to resign. The secret majority shareholder was exposed. They're personally being sued. That little boy that I just mentioned, he's now 18, and he's suing the company along with many other victims. And the company was actually sold as a distressed asset because of the repercussions of what's happened. But we're not done yet, because we want to see justice fully served. And what that means is, justice to the full extent of the law, both criminally and civilly. And that's so important to be a deterrent to future abusers.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, for these corporate traffickers, is what I call them, it's a risk-benefit calculation for them. And we have to increase risk and then eliminate profitability. And when we do that, we're going to see a transformation of this industry to make the internet a safer place.
Do you see any of the controls that they're putting in as working? I'm in Florida, where now I think you have to have an ID to go on some of these sites. That at least provides some protection, I suppose, on the user end. That's not doing anything on the end that you're talking about. But I assume you find some value in some of that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, children are being exploited in front of the screen, and they're being exploited behind the screen. And victims are being exploited on both sides for profit, because the business model of free user-generated porn is to sell ad impressions. So it's all about traffic. That's what they care about the most, is content and traffic.
Have you guys gone for the advertisers too?
They have no mainstream legitimate advertisers anymore. Nobody will, even KY Jelly is Astroglide will not advertise. I mean, they even had at one point, they had Kraft Heinz Unilever advertising. They were called out. They stopped. So, they don't have legitimate mainstream advertisers anymore, thank goodness, because that's another repercussion of what's happened. They've lost mainstream business partners. But the business model relies on selling 4.6 billion ad impressions every single day. on Pornhub, and that's why they need that traffic. But I think these controls are important because children have free access to the site too, right? Where their sex education as young as 8, 9, 10, 11 years old is not just violent, hardcore, legal pornography, but is actually crime scenes that they're witnessing from such a young age that's shaping their sexual template for life, which is really harmful. So the solution at scale for this issue is age and consent verification. So we need age verification for those who are accessing the site, just like, you said Florida has done, Texas has done. Currently, the Supreme Court is hearing and going to decide whether it's okay for states to implement age verification to protect children.
Yeah. So when you sit down and think that 10-year-old boy or that 11-year-old girl, as in the case with Lily Phillips, who's to say that they didn't watch someone get raped? Who's to say that they didn't watch something that was underage? Right? Pedophilia. Right? And then when you sit down and think about what they're doing in the schools, and then you have companies like this that are driving large amounts of traffic. You think? Do they think they care whether or not little Johnny or little Jenny doesn't get that porn in their hands? They don't care. And they're demonstrating that they don't care. Right? So they're pushing this money. They're trying to push as much money in their pockets, and they don't care how it's happening. Right? And so what is that doing to the little children who are watching this? Not to mention with what they're doing in the schools. Right?
Yeah, kids are being groomed to be raped because there's a lot of that content that, like she said, they put that titles and they make it explicitly look like that, and yeah, that's it's very sick. That's
Yeah.
I mean, it's very sick, and again, I still think that the parents are to blame, because even if your child was exposed to something, why didn't her parents help her, like why didn't her parents help her like fix, like I can't understand, like I don't understand why her parents didn't help her fix that issue, for her to just be back as I don't want to say normal, but like operating as efficiently as possible, and so that she could progress beyond what she watched and experienced. Like they just kind of leaned into it and was like, okay, it's okay. And that's very strange to me. Like it's very suspect to me. Like I just can't understand that. I can't understand how parents can do that with their kids.
No.
It's abuse.
Yes. Let's have a commercial break here, and we'll come back to these quickly before we have to get through. We got a few more to get through, so let's take a quick commercial break.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, MyPillows, towels, slippers, blankets.
I'm interrupting this commercial to do something I've never done before. Get 2 MyPillows absolutely free on orders of $100 or more. I can't do this forever, so get on board with this great sale today. Our best-selling 6-piece bath towel sets or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Our famous standard MyPillow is only $14.98. Queens, $18.98. King size, only $1 more. Body pillows, $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bed sheet sets. Any size, any color. So go to MyPillow.com or call that number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And when you spend $100 or more, get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Yeah, so anybody who needs the MyPillow products, go to mypillow.com/Karis or call 800-845-2942. Use promo code Karis. So yeah, good stuff. They've got all different kinds of stuff. Go check it out. Support a good cause. So now we're looking at this whole situation. You've got a situation where they're now people are profiting off of people being raped, sexually assaulted, abused. Children are watching it. Then you're sitting down and you're looking at what's going on inside of our schools. And this is where people have to start thinking about this. While they're pushing this, and people like Pornhub are putting up things of people being sexually assaulted and so forth. You've got people like this inside of your schools.
.org. It's short for virtuous pedophiles. Not virtuous as in they're better than everyone because they're attracted to children, but virtuous like having moral standards and a sexual orientation that they have no control over, like the rest of us. Before you get all worked up, I'm talking about pedophilia, not child molestation or rape. Pedophilia is the sexual attraction to children. It's a paraphilia. There's a link to more information about it in the description, videos I've made in the past explaining the kind of human diversity and development. Molestation and rape are different. These are abusive actions that often have nothing to do with attraction. Many child abusers are actually sexually attracted to adults, but they act out on children. Meaning you probably don't object to pedophiles because you're compassionate and rational, but you may loathe child molesters and rapists because they violate people. I personally try not to judge either.
So now you have these companies that are pushing all of this stuff, and like you saw, the children getting raped, right? On the Pornhub, that is going into the hands of children to see them getting excited off of people raping children. And then now you have the people in the schools that are telling you that pedophilia is okay. You see how this is a problem? And the women that are involved in this, they are not going to go and put their work in the hands of children, but there are companies that are taking what they're doing, put them into the hands of children, keep pushing them down. And how Angela White said that it was a teaching tool. And as they began to be in that sexually aroused state, then it would then move them over from one thing to another to see something that they might not that they might think that they would experience that they wouldn't think that they would. And she talked about this gearing this towards adults who were giving her feedback. What is that going to do to a child? When companies like Pornhub are putting this in the hands of children, what is it going to do? And then you have people like this, that woman we just watched, that are there now telling your kids that pedophilia is okay. Yes, this is a big problem. It's a huge problem because people are going and murdering a lot of the wanting to murder, not saying they're literally doing it, but they're going after and going crazy on the OnlyFans. Like they're not the biggest issue. They're not. A lot of them, like for example, when you start putting children and give them pornography at 11 years old, you're destroying them. You're setting them up and you're putting them in a position with no boundaries. And then you have people like that woman inside of the schools that are going ahead and teaching children all kinds of filth. Right? This is a recipe for disaster. Right? Because you're watching here, we're going to bring up another clip here, and we're going to listen to them talk about this situation. And like I said, Angela White, she's a millennial, so she's between Lisa Ann and Lily Phillips, and you can see the difference between Lisa Ann, who's a Gen X, and then you watch Angela White, who is a millennial, and then you watch Lily Phillips, who's a Gen Z. Now, just listen to what she has to say here.
It kind of struck me about how you are very much about empowering other women, and you're not that kind of, because there's a lot of girls in this business that are super competitive and really like to put each other down, and you're definitely somebody who seems to really seek to unify the industry, which I think is really great. And I felt that was very much reflected in what Asa was saying about you.
Thank you.
So what are your views on that?
Well, I feel like we really need to be unified. We need to be part of a community, and we're already so maligned and hated by the outside world. Well, not all aspects, but there's so much shame in our society when it comes to sex. And when you commodify sex, and when you are empowered and use your own body in whatever way that you want, if you sell sex in whatever form, you're going to be maligned even further than if you're just expressing your sexuality without commodifying it. And that's another reason why I love shows like AVN, because it's an opportunity for us to celebrate each other and celebrate our industry and the good that we do for ourselves and for the community. Because if we don't celebrate us, who's going to?
Yeah.
Everybody loves to watch porn,
but nobody wants to admit it.
Yeah. So, and nobody's going to fight for us but us.
Right.
So that's why I feel like community is so important. And it's just part of my history as well. Like coming into the porn industry, being in this adult community with like-minded peers and sex-positive people, it's the first time in my life where I felt like I can truly be myself, where I've truly felt accepted as the sexual being that I am, and supported in the sex that I want to have. And I was not supported, in high school growing up.
Right.
I was not. I was criticized for every way that I expressed my sexuality. So in porn, I can finally speak my truth. I can be who I am. I can just genuinely be me without worrying. And I want everyone in the industry to feel that way. So, yeah, I mean, I would say that there is some competitiveness, but it's not as bad as maybe other industries, to be honest. I think Tommy Pistol actually made a good point when he accepted his AVN award at the start of the year. He said, we're a family, but we're a family. You know, like there is a sense of camaraderie, community.
Yes.
We can always endeavor to do better to support one another, but I think that we're doing a good job.
And with what you said there, the competition is actually going to get worse. And the OnlyFans platform is going to make it worse as you see the things starting to change and the economy gets worse. And when you're seeing things like when they're talking about empowerment, now what she's doing to go ahead and push boundaries, other people are using what she's doing, like the people of Pornhub, to push this to the hands of children, like, for example, Lily Phillips, who is 11. They got into her hands and seeing this boundary pushing stuff by people like her that she didn't want to put in the hands of children, but the people at Pornhub certainly didn't care, wanted to make money, so they're driving it like Layla Micklethwait said to the video games where they're going to pop up and they're going to see this boundary pushing stuff that would be pushing boundaries of adults and putting it to children. Not to mention they're going to see children being raped. You're going to be seeing people like that woman in the school grooming the children, and you're seeing where this is going, right? Because Angela White, she's not sitting down there and saying, well, I want to put this in the hands of children. She's not. She's not. She's talking about adults, and she's talking about what was happening to her and wanting to empower women. But then when you're starting to empower women that don't have boundaries, that have been groomed to go and be with no boundaries and have been exposed to content where they've been seeing children being raped, and that's what their boundaries are, that becomes a huge problem. And then you have the guys like at Pornhub that are driving this traffic out and pushing more of this content into the hands of children. What is going to continue to happen? That is a massive problem.
Elizabeth said, why does the women in my generation, they
they never say no, and then they say they were abused because they were watching probably a lot of stuff also that showed that kind of tendency, maybe, that produced that type of result. Because if you're watching porn from the age of 11 and you're watching people, maybe a child being abused on camera, and you're being groomed and you don't know, or the barely legal, which looks pretty much the same in your mind as a child, then you're watching that this is the only normal response. And then when you put yourself in a situation, then you're getting the abuse, but you're letting it happen because you've groomed yourself into letting it happen, but then you're traumatized, so then you don't want it to continue, so then you stop. It's like, and then you're going to go one way or the other, though, as a female, like completely AWOL, like Lily Phillips, or you're like, and keep trying to find ways to empower yourself to find, like, sexually, by doing more of it, so you can have the proper experience that you're looking for, but you'll never find it. You're going down like a black hole. And then or you go the other way, and you don't want anyone to touch you ever, which leaves you both in the same position almost. So yeah, this is interesting. And it also affects the people who, like, you work with, like Elizabeth and Vic Legina said, because then you have people come on set, they agree to do things, and then they leave, and then people get sued, or they there's posts about them made about how they abused somebody when everyone agreed and signed papers or whatever. And this makes a lot more sense now. Yeah, this is very sick. And then on top of it, you have the double angle from the school who produces the certain filth in schools to the kids and shows them that filth. So you're breaking boundaries in the school. You're also punishing them for trying to stick up for themselves. And then they're also watching porn on the back end. That's abusing them. And then, like the one girl said, you're also masturbating while you're doing it. So you're emotionally certifying the abuse to yourself and traumatizing yourself. And then if you're in a home with parents who don't care about you or don't know how to help you, like Lily Phillips was, then they end up creating the circumstances for you to prostitute yourself, as opposed to, having a good father and mother who realize that you're struggling and creating an environment where you can actually heal and thrive. And this is actually sick and twisted at every level. And this is what I told people. We were talking to Nikki Munitz a while back, and we kind of had like a little bit different opinion on this, where I said that it's not that people, one of the first shows she came on, it's not that people my age don't have less problems than your generation. My age children growing up have more psychological abuse, forms of abuse, which led to the physical and other things. It's a different type of abuse that, because they have to do it different with every generation. So it's multiple levels of abuse that they're ingrained into them. And by the time that they get to the end of it, they're like, I just don't care anymore. They're like, I'm just going to do whatever.
Well, and you can see the difference. Like, I mean, and Angela White's a very smart woman. She did her.
Yeah, she is. She's very smart.
But you can see the difference between even the experience and the generational gap between Lisa Ann and Angela White. It's very evident, right?
You can even see the difference between them and that Sophia Rain girl and the other black-haired girl that always uses her brother as a plot.
Of course.
Black-haired girl with the brother. And every time I'm just like, Jesus wept.
This is what I'm saying.
Worse and worse.
Exactly. As that exposure increases, you're watching this. Now listen to what we have quickly, a couple more clips to go through. Listen to what Lisa Ann says here, and then we're going to play our final clip.
And did you ever struggle with guilt or shame at all, before or after?
I struggle with everyone else's. Everyone else's guilt and shame was projected on me to the point where I can't tell you how many apartments I was denied access, banks I was denied service. In the late 80s, early 90s, as a girl in this industry taking money into a bank, there were women that would just not deal with you. They would just send you out. Yes. So I dealt with not feeling it myself, because to me, this was my choice. I used to tell people, like, you're letting this bother you and this doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
I'm a sexual being. I had 3 very simple goals at 16, which was to travel and see the world, make my own money, and make my own schedule. Adult life porn fulfilled that for me. You know what I mean? I got to see the world. So the guilt for me is only when someone projects it on me. You know, like sometimes I can remember in my dating life, like I'd go on a date with somebody, I think they'd be really into me. And then I realized, like, oh, they want me to explain to them how I deal with my guilt. And I don't have any guilt, which they're going to be bothered by because they have a ton of guilt. And they need me to pacify them so that they can consider dating me. Because really, they just wanted to see what it would be like. And now that they think they kind of like me, they don't know how to process the information, right? It's a very select person to process the information. We shouldn't be ashamed of our bodies. I have a much more European mindset, whereas they're so open in other countries. We're so held off. That's why porn makes so much money, because if we make people think it's bad, then they want it more, like drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, what have you. So for me, it's not my guilt. I mean, I've had, especially during the pandemic when the world was closed, I sat down with myself and said, how glad are you that you took every fucking chance you could? Here we are sitting locked in our places, but I have no regrets.
Yeah.
I've had sex with people in other countries that never spoke English. I worked on sets in a whole room of people that spoke different languages, and our only common language was sex. And I feel so liberated by these choices that I made and these chances that I took. So people have to understand that you're the guard of your own thoughts when it comes to shame and guilt. Criminals feel shame and guilt, right? They're sitting in a cell and they have to sit and think about what horrible things they did that got them there, which is awful. Sexually, you shouldn't feel shame or guilt.
I agree with her 100%. And wait, did you want to say something?
Yeah. Go ahead. Finish what you're saying. Just go ahead.
She actually confirmed what I said earlier about why women choose to go for over sexualizing themselves, because they want the money as the security. They want to manage their own time. And she wanted to travel. She wants to keep the things that she likes. Those things are easier to chase as a woman when you are hurt than actually trying to obtain the love and affection from a good man. Because if you have a sliver of a taste of it and it goes away, it will devastate that woman in a way that will make her want to unalive, because it's easier for her to understand, okay, if I do this action plus this action, I'll get money and I can do what I want.
Yes.
And this is what women are seeing men like the red pill and all this other stuff, treating them so poorly. They're like, you know what? I'm scared of having to interact with that. And like she said, she doesn't feel guilty. It's the guilt of the guys that are like, oh, in order to date you, I need you to justify why I should be with you. Why? Go away. I don't care. Go away.
Yes, but this we'll have to discuss
Don't push
this.
your guilt and crap on me.
We'll have to discuss this on another thing, but this is an issue that we had raised about the dating. But what I wanted to say quickly, because we're going to need to look at this one clip quickly before we go back and tie this together. What Lisa Ann said may work for her, but it does not work for Lily Phillips.
No, exactly. It doesn't work.
Let's look at this, and you'll see why.
There's some breaking news. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith has acknowledged for the first time that there's a serious pedophile problem at the highest levels of some of our institutions here in Alberta, including Alberta Health Services and the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Alberta. In 2021, the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Alberta gave medical licenses back to 2 pedophiles who had been arrested by RCMP for sex crimes against children, young girls as young as 5 and 6 years old. These guys were arrested for possession and distribution of child pornography. The college gave them their licenses back while simultaneously they were stripping the medical licenses of doctors who were treating their COVID patients successfully with ivermectin, doctors like Dr. Daniel Nagase. Even yesterday, Alberta's media, like the Edmonton Journal, came out in defense of these child sex abusers, running a hit piece on me and attacking me, trying to smear me and damage my reputation for pointing out the pedophile problem in Alberta.
So this is where this comes together. You see, the government is also protecting pedophiles. That Pornhub is also in Canada. They're pushing and driving traffic for pedophiles and putting rape in there. They're putting in the hands of children. Now they're getting women that are in there, like, because Lisa Ann, this was not happening in her day. But now it started to get more exposed to women like Angela White, who's a millennial. Now you're looking at Gen Z in Lily Phillips, who's had pornography, and how many other girls that are now having their boundaries taken. The government is protecting the pedophiles. They're pushing the grooming of the pedophilia in the schools. They're sexualizing the children. You're getting content of children being raped. Then these women are going out and they're either A, completely turning off, or B, they're being hypersexualized and they're going into that same industry with that same being wired for pedophilia being pushed by the people who are driving the traffic. And this is why we have a problem. And it goes all the way up to the government.
And then they don't feel guilt because it's natural in the woman to turn off that emotional response when she doesn't think that she'll get that love and affection from a man, because she wants to protect herself and guard herself. So if she does action A, action B equals getting money and what she desires without having to go through the potential rejection and hurt from a man. And this is so sick.
And this
is so sick.
They're using the women by grooming the women from pushing the sex into the children's hands. They're making a generation of women that are going to go out and groom more men and destroy them. And the red pill is feeding off of them to go and force more of the women into that situation. And they've created a vicious cycle. And this is why that they need criminal charges, and they need to put the brakes on this getting into the hands of children, because this is only going to get worse. And with that, I'm going to close with prayer, and I will give you your final thoughts, please. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your love, grace, and mercy. And Father, this day I ask of you in the name of Jesus to open our hearts and our minds and help the men and the women to come together to rebuild our families, our churches, our community, our nation, and that we would come together to protect the children from this evil filth that is being pushed upon them this day, is my prayer. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Yeah, thanks, Dad, for the prayer as always. Sorry, guys, I was so irritated. I didn't see the big picture until now. Honestly, this is very disturbing. I'm just going to say really quickly, for the women who, women need to do the hard thing. Women need to do the hard thing. It sucks. It hurts. It's very scary. But the consequences of doing the easy thing down the road, you don't want. You don't want that on your conscience. You don't want that on your spirit. You don't want the effects of that. And we're seeing the effects of it too late. It will suck to try and engage with the latter, which is gaining the love and direction and affection from a good man. But you'll come across good ones in a way that even if things go a different way, you're going to be so grateful for knowing them. You're going to be a better person. You need that character development. I just, this is crazy. I'm sorry. We need to do better. Anyways, we'll catch you guys in the next one. We're going to have to talk about this deeper in another show. Thank you for your time and considerations today, guys. We appreciate you. Love you very much. Thank you for good night. And to my dearest Karis, until we meet again, my friend, and we will.